Hello everyone. We're on chapter 20. We're on chapter 4 and we're doing paragraph 23. So I just finished off in the previous session reading the very long paragraph 23. So I'm just going to give you a summary of 23. And that is, the failure to recognize the true relationship between mental picture and object has led to the greatest misunderstanding in philosophy. It has been said that we do not perceive objects, but only our mental pictures. Anything else is subject to doubt. And the main point, as I just read, that he makes in this long paragraph is just that there's a failure to recognize the true relationship between mental picture and object. And because people haven't gotten the concept of and how a mental picture serves in our understanding of the world, it's led to all these little wacky ideas out there. And in the rest of his in this paragraph, he talks about these little bizarre, ideas. And what was one of the examples? Like he says here, I know nothing of the table in itself, which is the object of my observation, but only of the change which occurs within me while I am perceiving the table. And what is another example? He says, this is on what section? This is on where he says, I perceive light, color, and warmth then are the responses of my sensory nerves to external stimuli. Even the sense of touch reveals to me not the objects of the outer world, but only states of my own body. And if you can continue to the end of the paragraph, it says, I am absolutely external to the body and perceive only its effects on my organism. So that's sort of one of the, because there's a failure to recognize what a mental picture is and how it relates to us, it makes us think that everything that we're perceiving through our senses is just pointing out what's going on within me. It's not giving me direct knowledge of objects. And this is where Kant goes on about, things in itself. The quote that I read to you, which Steiner said is the opening sentences of Volket's book on Immanuel Kant's theory of knowledge. Basically, the summary of that paragraph is just telling us that we can only know mental pictures. Anything beyond that is subject to doubt, because, as Steiner's pointing out, because if there's not a true there's not a true understanding of the relationship between mental picture and object, and that's why all these distortions are coming up. So I want you all to really get it clear in your mind that in this paragraph, he's just wanting us to understand that we need to be clear on this relationship between mental picture and object. Mental picture is what's going on within me, and object is what I'm perceiving. And again, he's saying there a lot of the theories is that our senses are just giving us what's going on within us, and he cites some examples. So I think that's a good enough explanation for that paragraph. So I'm moving on to paragraph 24. In implication of this discussion, there is the theory of the so-called specific nerve energies advanced by J. Müller. It asserts that each sense has the peculiarity that it responds to all external stimuli in one particular way only. If the optic nerve is stimulated, perception of light results, irrespective of whether the stimulation is due to what we call light or whether mechanical pressure or an electric current works upon the nerve. On the other hand, the same external stimulus applied to different senses gives rise to different percepts. The conclusion from these facts seems to be that our senses can transmit only what occurs in themselves, but nothing of the external world. They determine our percepts, each according to its own nature. And the summary for paragraph 24 is, physiologist J.P. Müller determined that our senses can transmit only what occurs within them, and they transmit nothing from the outer world. And that is true, but the reality is there's a lot of these conclusions that have been drawn that may not be accurate. Like, yes, our senses, are receiving the stimulation and it's because of whatever reason, and it's not necessarily telling me say like what he says here, if an optic nerve is stimulated, you see light or whatever, but the fact is that that nerve is transmitting something, and it's not, to me, it's not relevant. I mean, sure, Steiner will explain this more, but if you're just reading this paragraph, I mean, there's obviously a lot of questions that little experiment brings up, and just automatically come to this conclusion that we can know nothing of the external world. That's sort of a weird way of looking at that. The facts that this person has observed, and he'll probably explain this more, but it is kind of weird when you think about it. It's like, so just because this is stimulating my nerve and I'm having this experience of light, that doesn't mean it's not telling me anything about it, the external world and whatnot. But I'm going to move on to paragraph 25. I hope you know what, maybe I'll get to 25 next time, because that's a long paragraph as well, and I don't want to have to stop in between. So I hope this is interesting for you guys, and again, if you have questions or comments, just send me a message and I'll get back to you. Okay, bye.